Welcome, sports fans, to the latest S&M production of the Sunday Night Sports Nerd Show. It is the most absurd 90 minutes of anything you'll expect to and a whole lot more. Every Sunday night, the sports nerd joins forces with three charismatic co-hosts who are a select group of sports nerds with attitude, better known in Nerd Nation as the Rampant. We are four of the most loudmouth, smack-talking nerds around, coming at you with some sick rips and rants, which may be just enough to make you pee your pants. So listen up, Nerd Nation. Let's rise and welcome the legend himself. He is the founder, he is the host, and he is the star of the Sports Nerd Show. Coming to you live, straight out of Lakeland, Florida, Scott, the Sports Nerd Right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Nerds. I am your host, Scott, the Sports Nerd Right, and along with my co-host, Mr. Elliot, Big E Lamba, Bills Mafia member for life, John G. Olson, and Ken Koslow. And our special guest tonight, of course, Mr. Derek Lofland. We will discuss the week that was in the world of sports. We're going to focus on the NFL. And we are live each and every Sunday night on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and on the blockchain courtesy of Vim.tv. If you miss a live broadcast, you can watch the replays on Spotify, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and on the blockchain via PD. And here we go.
Hey, before we get started, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
All right. What grade would you give Jose Ramirez on that right hook?
That was a hell of a punch, dude. That was a hell of a punch.
I don't know,
I mean, come on now. The man threw his glove down, said, let's fight, and got knocked the hell out.
You know what? What was great about it was the Cleveland Guardians radio broadcast. Tom Hamilton going, "Down goes Anderson," is what he said.
Yeah.
That was great. I love Mr. Rodriguez Ramirez. I love him. That was great. That was a great.
Classic, dude.
Yes.
I mean, he hit him. And what was really funny is that after the coaches took his spaghetti leg ass back to the dugout, okay, he's coming running out trying to get knocked out again.
Exactly. Well, I liked Tito's reaction. Reporter goes, "I'd like his left hook." Well, it was his right hook, first of all.
It was his right hook, yeah.
Yeah, and it may not be funny, but it is what it is. Boys will be boys.
It is what it is, man.
Yes. It's going to be the highlight of the Guardians season this year because they're not going to do much of anything else. Oh, God.
How are you liking that name, man? Are you okay with Guardians?
Guardians, I hate it, but it is what it is.
So
it's almost like, you know where I'm going, right, Elliot?
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the buzz of the Commanders going back to the Redskins?
The fan base is overwhelmingly in favor of them going back
they got
to the
like
Redskins.
tons and tons of signatures already.
That's hilarious.
They definitely need to change the name from Commanders. You want to basically get rid of the stench of Dan
It's
Schneider.
going back to Redskins. You know why? Because Magic Johnson is part of the ownership team, and he's not going to accept racism as an excuse for not having the Redskins logo.
You know what, guys? I mean, the Redskins are tradition for the last 60 years. I'm in favor of going back to Redskins.
So am I, dude.
It
rolls off the tongue better.
Yeah, just like the Guardians should be the Indians. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because the Indians were in business back, in the 20s and 30s. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought that name was problematic for a long time, so I was in favor of them changing it, but not to Commanders. That was the dumbest name change I've ever seen.
Redskins.
The football team is a better name than the Commanders.
The football team I liked. I actually thought that was good.
Yeah.
It's whatever. My team. Don't care.
They could do something like the Senators, like they did with the baseball team,
back to Redskins, dude.
or
they're going to demand it.
The Washington Generals or the Washington whatever. You know what I mean? Come on.
It's 2023, Elliot. There's no way in hell that team will be called the Redskins again.
Oh yeah, no, it can happen. I mean, you look at the Kansas City; they still calling themselves the Chiefs.
Well, the Seminoles and
Tallahassee. You look
calling
at
someone
Atlanta that does the tomahawk chop; they're still calling themselves the Braves.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Like Redskins is about pretty racist as it gets.
Like I said, with the new ownership, they're gonna say racism be damned. and we're gonna
Yeah.
put the Redskin name back on the team.
It only took him 80 years to get pissed off about it.
Right.
Nick Lord and I used to call them the pandas on our podcast because that was the least offensive creature in the world, according to Jim Jeffries. So we called them the Washington Pandas.
And it all and
Bears.
it all came to fruition when the ugliness of MAGA surfaced. You know what I'm saying? That's when everybody was offended about the Redskins and this and that and blah 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 blah. I'm kind of glad that the other team stuck to their guns. Okay, except for the Guardians. They should have just kept their Indians name.
You know what?
But
If you look, you can't see it because the 3 is covering it, but I still have my Indian Chief Wahoo hat hanging above here. So I mean, I've got Chief Wahoo still here. So, and of course, the Bears are hiding it, but I've got my Indians apron that my sister made for me too. So I mean, it is what it is. Anyway, let's start with Hall of Fame weekend, and we're gonna get to the preview of the NFL season with Derek in a minute. But I want to go over Hall of Fame weekend. There were 9 guys inducted in the Hall of Fame this past weekend. DeMarcus Ware, Rondé Barber, Joe Thomas, Don Coryell, which was very significant for me because Don Coryell was an innovator whose offense is still being used today. Okay. And then, of course, where'd it go?
Chuck Howley.
Chuck Howley, which I know is very important to Ken. I know
Could have
Ken
been
grew up
30 years
I
ago.
was watching him in the 60s and
Joe
early 70s.
Klecko,
Joe Klecko, yeah, okay. But I mean,
Revis Island.
Revis Island.
Revis Island.
But Chuck Howley is significant, Ken, because of how long ago he played. And now he is suffering from dementia. But if you watched NFL Network's show about the door knocking, it was on this morning. I don't know if you've seen it before, but they did actually have a film crew where Roger Staubach revealed to Chuck Howley that he was being inducted in the Hall of Fame. And despite the dementia, he seemed to understand what was going on. Okay.
And the list is rounded out by Rondé Barber and DeMarcus Ware.
Well, you know what? The 2 best speeches I thought were DeMarcus Ware, number 1, and then Rondé's.
He didn't do a very good national anthem, so yeah, his speech made up for that.
DeMarcus Ware and his story about his uncle. I don't know if you guys saw the whole thing or not, but I'm going to just recap that real quick. He was at a parking lot party in college, and his uncle was in a car, and all of a sudden some guy came up and knocked him on the head with a gun, and a knife fell on the ground, and DeMarcus picked it up. He gets up and looks at the guy, and the guy had his handgun on his head, and DeMarcus, all he could hear in his head was his family saying, "Don't kill him." He dropped the knife. He said, "This isn't me," and he walked away. And it was at that moment he said, John, gave him a second chance, and he wanted to make something of it. His story is he was very, very good. Also, the fact that his father was at the ceremony, and his dad was non-existent in his life growing up. And he sat there, and DeMarcus said there on the podium, "I forgive you. Let's move on." And that was very poignant. So far, his speech is getting the most attention in the media thus far. I liked Rondé's speech because the line that I took away from that was he didn't want to be just a guy. He was undersized, okay? He wasn't expected to be great, and he redefined the cornerback position when he played in Tampa because he was all over the place. He was a sack master. He was an interception leader, and he played nickel cornerback, and he redefined that position in the Tampa 2 while he was in Tampa. And what that has molded and transformed into today's defensive backs, what he did back in the day. I mean, the Tampa 2 defense was the reason why the Bucs won the Super Bowl in 2003. I mean, that defense was just unstoppable in that for at least 3 or 4 years during that time. So
that's probably the best pass defense of the Super Bowl era.
correct. I agree with you, Derek.
I think quarterbacks had a rating of 49.5 against that defense that year. And
well, under that, but they held the greatest show on turf to 11 points in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
11 points.
Well, they scored 11 points.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean
11-6. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sorry. That catch, that was a catch. It wasn't an incomplete pass. It was a catch. You know, the Bucs from that era, and that's when I was a major fan of the Bucs, was back in that era when Tony Dungy groomed that team, and then Gruden took over for 1 year, and he actually won the Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's team, in my opinion. I was a huge Bucs fan at that point, and those guys. I mean, that was just. I mean, that defense was amazing to watch, Derek. I know you remember it too, but it was just unreal how good those guys were.
My uncle used to be a season ticket holder to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he actually went to the Super Bowl that year when they intercepted Rich Gannon on every pass play because they knew all the audibles. They didn't bother to change
because they were still running Gruden's offense. That's why.
Running Gruden's offense and Gruden's audibles.
Can I say something just right quick?
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very happy for all of the new inductees. But to make Chuck Howley wait this long,
it's terrible.
Is
terrible.
Absolutely absurd.
Well,
it was a travesty.
Not just Chuck Howley, but Coryell.
Coryell
also. It was a travesty to make Bob Hayes wait until he was already dead to get him in.
Right.
I don't know what it is with these people, but it makes me furious.
Well, it's Ken Riley too. Ken Riley,
exactly.
I mean, he died. Exactly. He died 3 years ago. So, and now he's getting it posthumously, as well as Don Coryell. Coryell died in 2010.
Yeah.
He should have been inducted 5 years after he retired.
So should Chuck Howley.
Well, I don't get it. Ken Stabler passed away the year before he got inducted, and Jerry Kramer was the best guard in the history of the NFL for the first 50 years. He was I think he was the only Lombardi Packer that was on the all 50-year team.
Right.
And had to wait until he was 82 years old. They were worried he was going to die before he got inducted, and thankfully he didn't. But I get so sick of that where these guys are, don't get honored until the year after they pass away, and they do nothing to improve their resume for 30 years.
And that's the tragedy of it all. Is that they wait so long to put these people in, and then they die and don't have the privilege of being there to.
Well, and they should have been in there in the first place.
Right.
Well, yeah, and you know what? If you're gonna put somebody in, put them in 5 years. Period. Period. Get it in. Get it done.
There is one outstanding player, and I'm trying to remember who it is, who had a brilliant career in the 1960s, early 70s, and he is still waiting, and I cannot think who it is, but I saw his name the other day.
A lot of them still are, Ken.
I'm sorry?
When there's guys in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that instead have been waiting for so long. I mean,
it's totally ridiculous.
I mean, Steve Tasker, guys.
Steve Tasker is the best special teams player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and one for me is Sterling Sharp.
Yes,
Sterling
Sharp. Backers, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
amen.
I mean, Shannon Sharp, I remember that was one of the best induction speeches I ever heard, where he said, I am standing on this stage and I am the only Hall of Famer that can honestly say I'm not the best football player in my own family.
Well, Sterling was better than Shannon. If it wasn't for his injuries, he would have had a Hall of Fame career. He would have been in already.
Yes.
Sterling Sharp was amazing.
It's just the second best receiver in the league.
The injuries cut his career short.
He was the second best receiver in the league for about a 6-7 year period with Jerry Rice.
Yep.
Jerry Rice was first, and then Chris Carter was right in there too, and then Michael Irvin, and and all those other guys are in the Hall of Fame, and he'd have the same numbers as they would. I mean, maybe even better because he had Brett Favre in the prime of his career, ready to win 3 MVP awards, and he got injured right before Favre won his first MVP.
If Sterling hadn't injured his neck, he would have been in the Hall of Fame a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm totally in favor of that. Totally agree with the agreement.
It's an absolute travesty that these brilliant players have to wait this long in order to get in. It's just,
it's like they die and the Hall of Fame says, "Oh, wait a minute, what about this guy that just
yes,
passed away?
exactly.
Let's put him in
right.
there."
And you know what's really tough on too? Their families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like they would have liked to have been able to share
absolutely
with their loved one.
Absolutely.
And so they get robbed of that satisfaction.
Didn't Ken Riley's family say something out about
he was in there to enjoy this? Yes. He kind of mentioned it. Yes.
And that's that's the sad part about it, is that it goes beyond the player themselves or the coach, because there's a family that has to endure, and it's kind of like resurrecting the dead for them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, Elliot.
It's just sad. It's a sad thing.
Well, and what I was going to say is there's a balancing act to it, because if you have 20 inductees every year, you water down the Hall of Fame. Part of what makes it special is that the very, very best get in there. You don't want a situation where you have so many players that, Tony Romo's getting into the Hall of Fame as a quarterback. Tony Romo was a good NFL quarterback for a long time.
Not a Hall of Fame quarterback.
He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not.
No, Tony Romo was not a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm sorry.
He's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, no.
But posthumous entry, it doesn't solve anything either.
Let me address something like that. A year ago was an anomaly, because that's 2 years worth, because we didn't have a Hall of Fame ceremony 2 years ago because of COVID. So that's an anomaly. You can throw that out. But you're right. There's no way we can get 20 people in at one time. And they got to have a feeling at some point.
It diminishes the
but here's the thing.
Feeling.
But here's the thing. You got to wait 5 years, first of all. Okay, I totally don't understand. Why don't they start the process right afterwards?
Well, one reason is because if you get a guy who they figure that if your body of work is Hall of Fame, it should still resonate in people's mind 5 years afterwards. Sometimes you have this recency bias where I just watched it. But
again, that's another 5 years that's being taken away from a process that's already delayed to begin with.
Right.
I wouldn't have a problem with it being. I wouldn't have a problem with it being reduced to 3 years.
And that's fine. That's been the rule for since Dust came about.
Yeah, Clarky, I'm with you. I don't know that Eli Manning being in the Hall of Fame, but he's going to get in because of his 2 Super Bowl champs. That's why.
But instead of having, and alongside having this wait 5 years, why don't they put a cap on how many years someone has to wait? And then if they don't make it by that time, it's kind of like in baseball. If you don't get voted in by a certain time, you're not eligible anymore.
Well, the senior committee.
They have that. That's what the senior committee is there.
Yeah.
Right.
But to address Clarkie's point, that's the only reason Joe Namath's in the Hall of Fame, because of Super Bowl III.
That's it.
I mean, he had an average career at best. I mean, he had one great year in '67, and that was it.
That's why Aaron Boone is manager of the Yankees, because of 2003.
Yeah.
Game 6.
The only thing to be fair to Joe Namath is that he's kind of in that Gale Sayers, Terrell Davis category, where I think a lot of people feel like, what would he have been like if his knees were not absolutely destroyed?
Well, he had bad knees when he was at Alabama, Derek.
Yeah, I know he did.
The reason he is in the Hall of Fame is because of his persona. I mean, he was the face of the league when we had the merger. It was the importance of that. And Super Bowl III are the only reasons he was in. Otherwise, his stats are next to nothing.
And his only year he won playoff games was that 1 year they won the
That's
Super Bowl.
it.
He didn't win a playoff game any other year.
No. In fact, he didn't play in another playoff game.
But there are a lot of people that think his arm was one of the best arms in the history.
Oh, it was, absolutely.
It was, absolutely.
It was.
Yeah.
He had a howitzer for an arm.
Detriment to his ability. That's a problem.
Right. Well, his knees. I mean, he was not good in the second half of his career because his knees gave out.
Right. But he had the only quarterback that I've ever seen compared to him as far as release and everything is Elway. And that's
Marino was close.
Marino's fairly close, but Elway and Namath are two of the fastest release that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a guy named Dan Faust that released the ball pretty quick.
Faust had a fantastic arm, but he didn't have the release that Elway and Namath did.
He flicked that wrist, that ball took off. You know what I mean?
he had the arm strength, without a doubt. But
there's been some. I mean, you take for instance Brett Favre. He had a cannon for release the ball.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm talking about just absolute fast release.
Brett Favre did that.
Once that ball hit left Namath's hand,
yeah,
I mean, it was sailing.
Yeah.
The play I enjoy the most from Joe Namath's career is him hitting Eddie Bell, because Eddie Bell could absolute streak down the side, and Namath could hit him on a dime, just like that.
Yep.
And that was enjoyable from Namath's career.
A couple of things I want to touch on, guys, before we get into Derek. First of all, Malik Hooker gets a 3-year extension. Kenny,
I'm sorry.
Malik Hooker gets a 3-year extension with the Cowboys.
He gets a 3-year extension.
Right.
Zach Martin is still waiting.
Right.
If I can touch on that for just a second,
sure.
Zach is wanting a humongous contract, but let's face it, he has had a number of injuries over the last 5 years, and they're not going to pay out a player who's been injured as often as he has that kind of money.
Right.
Don't underestimate Jerry Jones' ability to overspend, but I agree with you.
Look at the contract he gave Ezekiel Elliott, for God's sake. Come on.
But let's not forget that the Cowboys are already imploding before even preseason starts.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Do what?
They're already imploding.
They're already imploding as preseason.
I think they'll be okay.
Dak is already getting heat from his defense.
Dak's already an outcast.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Another thing
they always
is
find a way. Ask Stephen A. They always find a way.
Okay, Clarkie, let me address Clarkie right quick.
Zeke.
This is interesting because Jerry has already said he's open to having Zeke back. Mike McCarthy says he doesn't want Zeke back. And so it's going to be a clash between Jerry and McCarthy.
Well, the latest rumor is there was a rumor that the Browns may sign him.
Oh, wow. I've heard that rumor for quite some time.
I don't want him in Cleveland. You know, if he gets signed by the Browns, he's going to be number 2 or number 3 at the best.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I've heard his visit with the Patriots went really well. So, I mean, if he wants to sign with the Patriots,
by
all means.
Anyway, and the next thing I want to say is this is somewhat of a sad situation, but I wanted to bring it up. Bears great Steve McMichael, who is suffering from ALS, was put into intensive care this past weekend as well. I mean, Mongo McMichael, as he's called, was one of the cornerstones of that Bears defense in 1985. And it's sad to see him in that situation, but prayers and thoughts going out to Steve McMichael. Hopefully he gets better. But it's Lou Gehrig's disease. You never know what's going to happen with that.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
I visited my cousin at the University of Texas 1 year. I was covering the state high school track and field meet, and while I was there, he and I went to this place called Schultz Garden. Mm-hmm. It's a German beer tavern in Austin, and while we were in there, Bam Bam and his wife came in, and I don't get gobsmacked real fast, but
McMichael?
McMichael. And he came in and with his wife was gorgeous, knockout. And he came in and sat down, and they had something to eat and drink, and I could not keep my eyes off of. He had the unbelievable biceps and everything. He was ripped.
Well, he was ripped when he was in WWE.
Yes.
And
to see him now absolutely rips my heart out, because he's been reduced to absolutely nothing left. And to see him in comparison to what I saw that night,
his wife became a part of that, and then she wound up marrying Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I think that may be right. Yeah. I don't know, but
I met McMichael one time too. I was at ESPN fantasy thing that they had in Chicago at the Hilton Hotel, and there was a whole bunch of ESPN personalities and local Chicago players and stuff. And Steve McMichael was there, and yeah, I mean, like you said, just a towering guy, and just absolutely a legend of the game. Even though I grew up in Wisconsin, and he's a Bear, there's a lot of respect for how good that '85 Bears team was. Just what that defense was able to do, and he was one of the cornerstones of it.
Yep.
The 85 Bears and the 2002 Buccaneers are two of the best defenses I've ever seen. I don't think we'll ever see anything that dominant again.
Well, especially with the rules.
Yeah, the rules, definitely the rules. Yeah.
And finally, one last thing. I know Ken was part of this. He watched it this morning. The U.S. women's national team loses in the World Cup to be knocked out in the round of 16.
Yep.
First, that's the first time they've ever been eliminated as soon as they have been now.
Right.
And the winning goal was won by like a millimeter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. She stopped it. She deflected it straight up into the air.
Yeah.
It comes down. She grabbed it, but it had crossed the line.
It was across the line.
It was. The thing is, the technology they're using is flawed, because it was over the line more than what that thing was showing.
Okay.
It was. I mean, it's as close as you can get. But it was, I could see it from the overhead thing that it had cleared the line. It is a legitimate goal. And I feel bad for them. To be honest, they did not look good at all in this.
Well, they underperformed the whole.
Yes. And the fact that they were having to play at an ungodly hour was part and parcel because of that. They had definitely deliberately scheduled the group winner to play in American prime time last night, and figuring that the United States would be in that game. And when they messed around and let the Netherlands take the group, and the Netherlands got that special place, and the United States had to play in 3 o'clock in the morning, or here 4 o'clock there, I guess, in the East. And from what I saw, they were fantastic. This is the best game they played.
The best game they played during the whole tournament.
Yeah, but they did not score a goal in the last 2 matches. I mean, 0 goals in 210 minutes, and they did not look good in the penalties. 2 of their penalties got put into the third deck of the behind the goal, and the last one Kelly O'Hara tried. I mean, I don't know what she was trying to do, but she put it off the side of the post. And
did Rapinoe also have a goal? Rapinoe?
No, she did not have.
Did not have a shot.
No,
she missed.
She was one of the ones that put it over the goal.
She missed.
Yeah, missed badly. There's a lot of people that didn't want her in the game at all. And,
well, this was Rapinoe's last game, as well as what's her name?
Julie Ertz's last game.
Yes, Ertz, her last game as well.
That's Zach Ertz's wife.
Yeah, Zach Ertz's wife. That
probably. Trying to think. Number 13, the really great player.
Oh, I know.
Her last game too.
I can't think of her name either.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Clarkie, you're right. Trinity Rodman had a fantastic tournament, but she couldn't finish either.
Talking about Alex Morgan.
Alex Morgan, yes, thank you, okay. Alex Morgan.
Yeah.
That's probably her last game. It's going to be a difficult time I don't know anything about this coach, other than the fact that
he didn't really, and get these guys to play to their level. I mean, it was
he didn't.
They were just going through the motions. It seemed like the whole.
Yeah. Well,
even in the first round, they were going through the motions. I'm like, what is going on here?
Well,
when you got teams like Japan and other teams scoring 3, 4, 5 goals during the first round. And the U.S. doesn't even. I mean, come on.
Well, the days of the United States showing up and saying, "Well, we're here. We're going to win now." And those days are over.
You think you're going to win just because you show up? No, it's not going to work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way anymore. There was a time it did, but not anymore. And the rest of the world has caught up.
Had a target on their back, and Sweden just went after him. And I mean, I from what I understand, the Sweden's goalie was just phenomenal.
She was fantastic.
Okay.
Sweden actually got outplayed in this game, and if they didn't look anything like they did in the group stages,
right.
And if they play this haphazardly against Japan will smoke them.
Yeah. All right.
Well, that's what happened with the basketball when the '92 Dream Team came in. America could send
exactly
their NBA guys over there and win by 30, 40 points, and then in 04 it all kind of caught up with that Larry Brown team, and they had to rethink how they would do teams like that.
All right, let me ask you this. I'm going to change subject again, Derek and Kenny. I mean, you're the college. I mean, the three of us are the college football guys that we love college football.
I know what's coming. I
think the NCAA realignment with the end of the Pac. Is it the end of the Pac-12? That was as we know it.
I think what you're going to be seeing is Marvel Comics coming out with a new movie called The Pacific Four. Pac-4. 4.
I mean, you got UCLA and USC going. Now you've got Washington and
Oregon to the Big Ten. Got Arizona State, and Utah, and Colorado coming to the Big 12.
Right, and Arizona went to the Big 12.
The school that I think this affects the most of the remaining 4 is Stanford.
Yeah,
because Stanford is a powerhouse across the board.
Correct.
And
I think they should go independent.
Well, Stanford, Notre Dame. I don't know that Notre Dame's going to remain independent. I don't know that Notre Dame's going to remain independent. I don't know. But
Notre Dame's looking at the ACC.
Yeah.
And you got Florida State and Clemson wanting to get out of the ACC and go to the SEC or whatever it is. So I mean, college football is just going upside down, topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
I'm sure John's loving this because he hates NCAA football.
Yes.
But I mean, this is crazy, guys.
NCAA anything.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's insane.
It is insane.
And it's all about money. It's all about money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how much are those kids getting paid again? Let me check.
They're not getting paid, John.
Yeah,
exactly. They're getting paid.
Why do we spend
NIL?
Why do we spend a minute talking about that?
I don't know.
They are getting paid now.
You know what? We were supposed to be talking about football.
Well, we are talking about football.
We got Derek here specifically for this week, and we probably won't see him again for a while.
Your light sucks, doesn't it, Derek?
Now we're down to 26 minutes. 26 minutes for Derek to share his thoughts.
All right, let's get into it. Derek, we are on the cusp of the 2023 season. We are 5 weeks away from NFL regular season football, although on my TV on Thursday, there was NFL football, so NFL football is back. Okay, let's hear your predictions and your beliefs as to how the 2023 season is going to go.
All right, you want to just start in the AFC East and then
start wherever you want to start.
Wherever you want it. The floor is yours.
The floor is yours.
So let's start in the AFC East then. I think Buffalo's going to repeat as the division champs.
John loves you right now.
I have them going 11-6. I don't think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, but I think they'll win the division. I have the Jets at 9-8, and I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. Dolphins at 8-9. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, and then Patriots at 7-10.
8-9 to the Dolphins, really?
I don't have any faith in Tua staying healthy, and now Ramsey is hurt and might miss the first 6 weeks of the season. If Tua stays healthy and plays like he did in the first half of the year, they could easily exceed that. And I think the Jets, too, if Rodgers can stay healthy, they could also exceed that. But, the thing people aren't talking about with the Jets is they're focusing on the defense and Garrett Wilson. They might sign Dalvin Cook. The offensive line is 5/11ths of the offense, and the Jets have one of the bottom 10 offensive lines in the league. The Packers always had a top 10 offense, and Aaron Rodgers has missed significant time in a couple seasons because of broken collarbones, getting hit and falling into the ground, and he's 39 years old at this point. I don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy beyond that line. In the first 6 games, I think they got Buffalo, Dallas, New England, Kansas City, Denver, and Philadelphia. I mean, they could easily start 2-4 to start the year. That's why I think the Bills are the safest pick in this division. Josh Allen is still an elite quarterback in the league. He's the best quarterback in this division. I think they got some questions whether they got a good enough pass rush. They only had 40 sacks last year. Stephon Diggs' contract situation was a little bit odd this summer and kind of creating some controversy. You wonder, what the chemistry is going to be there. But they've owned this division for the last few years, and I think it's still their division to lose.
I got a question, Derek.
Yeah.
Everyone's Super Bowl darlings last year with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills ended up going 13-3, won the division again, went through more drama off-field and on-field that a football team has possibly gone through in history. Went through schedule changes, the DeMar Hamlin stuff, you name it. I mean, it's up and down. They went out with a whimper, right? Like Cincinnati went into Orchard Park and beat the pants off them. Because of that, all the pundits and experts, and if I had my camera on, I'm using little bunny ear quotes right now, have written them off. Basically they've said that the Jets are winning or the Dolphins are winning and the Bills aren't even going to make the playoffs. As a Buffalo fan, I love it. I love being under the radar. Do you think this is warranted, though, all of this national attention? Like the Bills aren't all that, basically because of one game against Cincinnati?
Well, I don't think it's just one game. You figure, 3 seasons ago, they were in the AFC Championship game. Then the next year, they made it to the divisional round on the road and lost. Now, that was one of the most epic playoff games ever, that shootout with Kansas City. And then last year, they lost in the divisional round at home. And so what tends to happen is when you make that championship game to start off with, and you need to take that next step, and if you regress for a couple years, then people start to wonder if you're ever going to be able to get over the hump with this roster, because usually the league works in about 5-year windows, and then you got to retool. Now, I don't think Buffalo is going to be in a 5-year window because Josh Allen is still pretty young, but probably with this core group, they're going to have to retool it where it's a different team around him. And so I think what the concern is are they still in that 5-year window where they're going to compete, or are they kind of in a transition where they're going to have to slightly retool in order to get up there, because they haven't done what they're supposed to do the last 2 years. That doesn't mean they're a bad team, and Kansas City owns that conference right now. But
that's very similar to the let's say the Colts against New England, right? Like it was like New England's for decades, and the Colts were always like this really strong team. Like I don't think you'd go to a Colts fan and say were those years failures.
Right.
As a Bills fan who went through 17 years of never been in the playoffs, I'm extremely happy every time this team gets to the playoffs. And I know that's, mediocrity and we shouldn't celebrate that. We should celebrate a championship. But I remember how bad it was. I remember having Trent Edwards and JP Lossman as our quarterbacks. Yeah. I mean, so every year we have Josh, I think we have a chance. And I think you're right. I think they might have to retool when that 5-year window is up.
Just ask Giannis. Ask Giannis what he thinks about that particular word.
Well, and John, we've talked about this before. Josh Allen needs to stop trying to be the be all do all with his running ability and trying to make plays.
Well, that they did that this offseason. They retooled the offensive line.
Correct.
They went and got Damian Harris, which Clarkey is a fan of. So they're doing it. It's just like you're not asking. You can't take the dog out of Josh Allen. He throws too many picks. I mean, you can't have amazing Josh without.
He takes too many hits too, John.
But see, does he? Like really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Go look at the numbers and tell me.
Even
the Peyton Manning,
even the most bucking Bronco can be tamed from time to time.
I'm telling you guys, I don't know. I'm
okay
with
so many hits in the last couple of years. It's a miracle that he's stayed healthy.
Well,
they kind of have the same problem that Green Bay has, in that Green Bay has, this wide open passing offense all these years with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. They have 4 or 5 wide receivers, and then they get into a home playoff game in snow and 4 below, and they're not built to run the football in those full elements. And that's kind of Buffalo's issue, where they're built as a deep passing game, with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and, vertically going down the field. They don't really have a dominant between the tackles running back. And then they get into these full playoff games and they come up short. And that's why I think the Damian Harris signing was huge. My only question is, can he stay healthy? Because that's kind of been the problem in New England. Will he be healthy in January when they need him?
Yeah, he does spend a lot of time off the field. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If I'm the Bills, my biggest concern about Josh Allen is he taking so many hits to the head that he's now being reduced to doing Verizon commercials. So.
All right, Derek.
It's going to be a challenge as far as which quarterback can stay healthy in that division. And Allen, I have faith in, because he has shown to be durable all these years, and he's still in his prime. Where Aaron Rodgers and Tua, they definitely can concern me on whether they can stay healthy.
All right. Next division, Eric or Derek. I'm sorry.
Let's go to the AFC North.
God.
Yeah, you're not gonna be happy. So
I'm never happy when it comes to AFC North, but go ahead.
I have Cincinnati going 12-5, Pittsburgh going 10-7,
Really?
Baltimore going 10-7, and Cleveland going 8-9.
Really?
So let's talk about Pittsburgh. The one thing I think that gets overlooked with Pittsburgh is last year when TJ Watt started, that team was 8-2. And I think that they had a good draft this year, and they've made upgrades to the offensive line. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be in his second year, and he's going to play better. I don't think he's going to be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league or anything like that, but I think they'll get better production with him, and they got a lot of skill position talent. Baltimore concerns me because Lamar Jackson misses 5 games a year, and I still don't know if he can stay healthy. We'll see if Todd Monken is able to devise a scheme where he throws the ball more and doesn't take as many hits, but will he be the same Lamar Jackson if you take the running game out from him? And with Cleveland, I mean, I'm still worried about their run defense. They couldn't stop the run at all last year, and Deshaun Watson in those games that he played did not look very impressive to me. We'll see what it does when he has a full off season there working with all the players. I mean, he could bounce back for sure, but it's going to be a competitive division.
Let me just say this. A lot of the pundits out there are saying that the Browns have an elite offensive line. Okay? Deshaun Watson behind that offensive line with Nick Chubb, and then in the receiving core that he's got now, I'm going to doubt what you say. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm not saying they're making the playoffs. But I don't think they finished last in the division. And I'm going to come out and say it. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be last in that division this year. Period. End of discussion.
Not if TJ Watt stays healthy.
I don't care about TJ Watt. TJ Watt is
really
one guy. TJ Watt is one guy. Okay?
He's the defensive player. He's the defensive player of the year.
10 men.
He's the defensive player of the year.
I got a question for you, Scott.
Yeah.
From this last Thursday night's game. Is that stadium haunted?
Canton Stadium?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
because it seems like every year the Hall of Fame game, they have something happens. They lose a bank of lights or something happens. That stadium has to be haunted.
Clarky's correct.
Well, it's the Tom Benson Memorial Stadium, so Tom Benson is probably haunting that stadium at this point.
I have a feeling it's the Fawcett family that's haunting it.
The Benson family is like haunting that shit.
But no, the Browns will not be last. I'm sorry, Derek. The Browns will not be finished last in that division. Pittsburgh will be last in that division. I'm saying it. I'm shooting my shot right now. That's how it's going to be. Pickett is going to be exposed. Pickett is a has-been. He's not going to be great.
Has-been. He's a has-been.
Let me find something to write on and write this down.
You write it down. You can put it in ink. I don't care. The Steelers are going to be last in the NFC North, this AFC North.
Yeah, we need you to save this particular show in the archives. So
no problem, Elliot. No problem.
Yeah.
AFC South, I have Jacksonville winning that division with an 11-6 record.
Really?
I don't have a problem.
I mean, shocker.
I don't know about that. There's so much tough competition in the AFC South.
I have Houston
South is horrible, John.
I have Houston finishing second at 6-11. Tennessee finishing third at 6-11, and Indianapolis finishing fourth at 5-12. I think that's going to be
Houston finishing second
at 6-11.
At 6-11.
Well, okay, all right.
Actually tied at 6-11.
I mean, see, they got C.J. Stroud, so they got a better quarterback this year, and then they traded for Will Anderson, and they had a really good pass defense last year, and I think with a better offensive mindset, I think they could win a few more games. But I think this is going to be a terrible division.
But I like to pick at Jacksonville because of the quarterback, because of the head coach. I think that's going to be.
Isn't that 3 times as many wins as they had last year?
Yes. They had 2 last year, didn't they? 2, 3? I can't remember.
So you're saying there is a chance they could finish second?
I mean, Tennessee, if Derrick Henry stays healthy and DeAndre Hopkins has another good year and Ryan Tannehill stays healthy, but that's just such an old team with a lot of washed veteran players.
Let me ask you a question. Derek, why would DeAndre Hopkins go to Tennessee? Why would he select Tennessee as the place he wanted to go?
The contract,
the money. If I would have been him, I would have gone to Kansas City or Buffalo and chased a ring. I think at this point he's made a lot of money. You want that ring so that you have that to go along with your legacy. But
Clarky hits it right again. That was signed.
Yeah, well. D-Hop showed his true colors. He cares more about the money than he does about a ring. So
that's his personal.
That's thing, man. Whatever. But don't go out there and say, "Oh, I want to win." Like, just
his priorities are his priorities. They're not necessarily wrong. You know what I mean?
No, I have no problem with the guy taking the money.
Thank you, Ken.
Only get to play until you're in your early 30s. If you have a successful career, make the money while you can. So, but I also agree with that. He said that he wanted a chance to win. He wanted to look at culture and quarterback and all this fit. And
it's not going to happen in Tennessee. Not with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, but that's the point. That's what Derek's saying. That's what he went out and told everyone. I want culture. I want a winning organization, a winning quarterback.
Right.
He goes to the Titans.
Well, he goes to the Titans. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's. I mean, he could have gone to Buffalo or Kansas City to get that ring, and he would have been. I mean, could you imagine, John, if these?
No, I know. I think about it all the time. I know.
I mean, come on, seriously.
All right, it was like the last piece we needed.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, with him on one side and your other guy on the other side.
Who do you double team, right? I mean,
who do you double team on that wide receiver?
Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to get on it. Anyways, next division.
All right, AFC West, Derek.
AFC West, I have Kansas City going 14-3, Los Angeles Chargers 10-7, Denver 9-8, and the Las Vegas Raiders 4-13.
4-13.
Wow.
That's
faith in Jimmy G.
That's Pete.
Jimmy G better hope Max Crosby don't kill his ass before the season starts, because they had a squabble in training camp.
I don't think he's going to be healthy. He's never healthy. Why is he going to be healthy here?
No.
He doesn't finish a season. Brandon Jacobs is holding out. Devontae Adams says that he might not want to be there. I could see this team having a fire sale at the trade deadline, and like Carolina did last year, and then playing to get Caleb Williams.
Derek, would I be incorrect in saying that the 4 wins you say they will have during the season will be pretty much dependent on what their defense does rather than their offense?
Right? I think so. I mean, they're gonna. I don't have much faith in this offense because Jimmy G is he's an above average quarterback when he's healthy, but he's probably at replacement level, a little bit above average from replacement level, but he's never healthy. He's always got an injury.
And then you got Jacobs sitting out too.
Yeah, and they're talking that he might get traded to Denver or Kansas City. They're even saying that the Raiders might rescind the franchise tag on him like the Panthers did with Josh Norman a few years ago and just free up $10 million in cap. And, I mean, Devontae Adams is arguably the best receiver in the league, but, he's not going to do anything in that offense if Jimmy G's not playing and they don't have Jacobs running the ball. He's going to be seeing double.
Who's the backup in Vegas right now?
Tom Brady.
No, he's not.
I can't even remember. Steidman was there, but he left. I can't remember who they got as the backup. It doesn't matter. It's not
Nathan
good.
Peterman.
There you go.
Really?
I don't know, dude. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
How much of an influence do you think the new coach in Denver will be?
Well, that's why I have them improved at 9-8. I think that them and the Jets are going to be, the two, and the Dolphins are going to be the 3 teams on the outside looking in, and I think the Browns are going to be in that group as well, all around that 8-9, 9-8 record. I don't know. Russell Wilson, he was not good last year, and some of that was his coach. I don't think Nathaniel Hackett did a good job, but some of it was his bad attitude. Having that office up on the second floor, needing to go through his agent in order to talk to him if you're one of his teammates. And I think Peyton has kind of turned some of that bad culture around and has improved it. And I think they're going to run the ball better. They're going to, manage the clock better. They're going to have more wins. But I think, it's just – the AFC is a brutal conference. I mean, a lot of these teams that are missing the playoffs, they would be the 3rd or 4th seed in the NFC. They're not bad teams. It's just there's only 7 playoff spots, and it's just a loaded quarterback conference over there.
FYI, the backup in Las Vegas is Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer.
Followed by Aiden O'Connell and Chase Garbers.
Can we take that down to 3 and 14?
It wouldn't be bad for the Raiders, though. If they have the worst record in the league, this is the year to have it. You get Caleb.
Yeah, he's a kid from USC, right, yeah.
There's a lot of good people coming out.
Yeah, I mean, and they weren't going anywhere with Derek Carr, so they probably needed to strip this thing down, get the first pick in the draft, get a quarterback there, and rebuild it. But, they're going to be terrible this year.
I'm sure we're going to have a word about Derek Carr here really soon.
All right, let's move to the NFC. Let's start with the NFC East for
NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles 12-5, Dallas Cowboys 11-6, Washington Commanders 7-10, New York Giants 7-10. I think the Giants take a step back. I thought they won a lot of close games where everything came down to the wire. I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to be as careful with the football this year.
Well, he's got that great big contract in the offseason, Derek.
He did, and I don't think I would have given that to him, but they did, and
they should have given it to Saquon instead of Derek.
Right.
And tag Jones.
Yes.
Well, they should have tagged Jones because the money they would have been paying for 1 year with him would have been insane. I mean, you wonder, are you better off letting him walk? And they had draft picks, maybe drafting a quarterback and getting a rookie quarterback. And I think
Tyrod Taylor is a better option than Daniel Jones.
Who?
Tyrod Taylor. That's their backup.
No.
But
I think there's too many of these teams where they get a quarterback that's at the replacement level and they get scared that they're they're not going to be able to find anyone besides him, and they get into a bad contract with an average quarterback, and then they regret it. And I can see the Giants regretting that contract in a couple of years.
When it comes to Tyrod Taylor, you have to worry about the team doctor.
Yeah, you don't want it. You don't want the team doctor putting the needle in the guy's head chest. Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
It was an honest mistake.
Okay, all right, Jim.
Let me ask you something. You got the Eagles at 12-5 and the Cowboys at 11-6. Do you think it comes down to that last game in Philadelphia in Week 17?
It very well could. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think Philadelphia is going to take a little bit of a step back from last year. They won't have quite as many wins. I mean, they had 70 sacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts had a breakout year. They lost both coordinators. They had a little turnover at the running back spot. They're going to have to get that figured out. I still think they're going to be really good as long as Jalen Hurts stays healthy. They got A.J. Brown. They got Devonta Smith. They have a lot of great weapons on offense, and they really retooled well in the draft. But I don't think they're going to have quite this dominant year they did last year.
All right, let me ask you this. There was a lot of changes in Dallas as well, including offensive coordinator, Derek. How good really do you think the Cowboys are going to be?
With Mike McCarthy.
That's why I have them at second in this division. I have more faith in the Eagles and what they have on their roster and coaching than the Cowboys. But they still have Dak Prescott. They still have They still have Pollard. They still have
CeeDee
that good offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
CeeDee Lamb. There's still a lot of talent there. Micah Parsons is still there rushing the quarterback. They have Brandon Cooks, Trayvon Diggs. I mean, it's a talented roster. So I think they're going to come up short in the playoffs like they always do because I don't have faith in Mike McCarthy to get them over the hump when it matters. But the NFC is not a strong conference this year, and I think they could easily win.
Because Mike McCarthy doesn't have Aaron Rodgers in this offense either. So I mean, it's another thing,
Aaron Rodgers for a number of years after 2010, and
let me ask your honest opinion: how good is Dak Prescott, or how bad is Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott's not an elite quarterback, but Dak Prescott's probably in the 10 to 12 range, somewhere in there. I think he's either right on the edge of the top 10 or right below it. He's had a couple playoff wins, but he's never been able to get to a conference championship game. He's probably a lot like Kirk Cousins.
Well, I'm also like Tony Romo.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
An underachiever when it mattered.
And I'm sure Ken has no argument with that.
I don't.
But
I'd look like an idiot if I tried to argue that.
But is that bad? Wasn't he a 4th or 5th round pick? I mean, we act like Dak Prescott was the first pick in the draft. I mean, he was a guy.
No, he was a late round draft pick. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Or a mid round draft pick.
Dak Prescott is,
or UMass, whatever it was he was in. So
Dak Prescott is no different to me what he was at Mississippi State. I mean, I have not seen. I saw him play at Mississippi State a few times. He looked good. I mean, he wasn't spectacular. I don't know what they saw him in the Senior Bowl, I guess, and so it is what it is. I mean, has he taken the Cowboys as far as he can take them? I don't know. We shall see.
All right, what about NFC?
Just real quick, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. Dak Prescott is at least.
But it wasn't Flacco that won that Super Bowl. It was the defense.
I didn't say it was Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco had a
Trent Dilfer in 2000. It was the defense.
No, Joe Flacco was better than Trent Dilfer, and Flacco.
I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is if he gets the right roster and puts the right postseason together, he can win a Super Bowl. But he's not somebody that you're going to build a dynasty around.
No,
he's
you're not.
An elite guy.
No. All right, let's go NFC North. Your division.
NFC North. I have the Lions winning it at 11-6.
I like that pick. I like that pick.
Yep. Packers going 10-7, Vikings going 9-8, and Chicago going 5-12.
All right. The Packers are going to be better than the Vikings.
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Because the Vikings have one of the worst defenses in the league. They lost Delvin Cook. They lost Adam Thielen. So, yes, they have Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and that's going to score a lot of points. But the Packers have the way better defense, and they have two of the best running backs in the league. And I think Jordan Love is not going to be great in his first year starting, but I think that they are comfortable with what they have there. And he's going to.
I was going to ask you what you thought about Jordan Love. I know that the Packers are your pride and joy. So what do you think of Jordan Love?
I like what I've seen every year in the preseason. He's gotten better. He had that bad start against Kansas City, but he had that really good game against Philadelphia. He's got great arm talent. He's got great mobility. He's going to make mistakes this year. He's going to have some games that make you wonder if he can play in the NFL. And I think he's going to have some games where he's going to look spectacular. It's going to be an up and down year with them. But in the NFC, it's not a tough conference. I think they can win 10 games. If they were in the AFC, I'd say they're probably a 7-win club out there.
Okay.
Because it has to do with the division, and they're the best defense in this division. Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago all had terrible defenses last year. Green Bay is loaded with first-round picks on defense, and they can run the ball. They have that 1-2 punch with Jones and Dillon.
I still like your pick for Detroit winning that division. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going to be, but I am looking forward to that first Packers-Jets game, whenever it is.
Yeah, right.
Right.
All right, let's go to NFC South.
NFC South, I have the Saints winning the division at 9-8. I have Carolina also at 9-8, but finishing second. Atlanta at 7-10. Tampa at 5-12.
Oh, I love you, Derek. Baker Mayfield needs to be put in his fucking place. I'm just.
I just don't think they have the quarterback to hang. They had a good defense last year. They still got Evans and Godwin, but quarterback play is going to be Tampa's downfall. They're going to have arguably one of the 3 worst quarterbacks.
Baker's going to throw 20 interceptions this season. Mark my words.
According to one guy, Baker is an upgrade from Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, Baker's going to throw 20. Baker's going to throw 20 interceptions this season. Mark my words. I'm just saying. The Bucs are just. I'm going to enjoy the Bucs being bad. I'm just going to enjoy that. I don't have a problem with the Saints being number 1 in the division. The division is the worst division in the NFC. They got a rookie quarterback in Carolina. I think with Derek Carr being in New Orleans, that's going to be the difference in that.
New Orleans got Jimmy Graham back.
Yeah, and they got Jimmy Graham. Well, he's 120 years old, but that's okay. Kyle Trask will end up playing quarterback for Tampa Bay because Baker's going to just fuck things up like he always does. But I like New Orleans as that pick. What about the NFC West?
NFC West, I got San Francisco at 12-5. Seattle at 10-7. Los Angeles Rams at 5-12. Arizona Cardinals at 3-14.
Yeah, Arizona's just going to be terrible. They're going to be horrible.
Yeah,
they're going to be awful. John will enjoy rubbing into his son because he's a Cardinals fan.
I don't know how that is.
Who do you see starting for San Francisco in week 1 as far as quarterbacks are concerned, Derek?
Brock Purdy. As long as his elbow continues to progress, I think he'll be the starter. And then if he doesn't work out, I could see them going to Sam Darnold next. Trey Lance says he looks like a bust at this point.
Trey Lance is a bust. I think Elliott will agree with me. He's not real happy with Trey Lance. Trey Lance is going to be trade bait before the trade deadline, as far as I'm concerned.
Who's going to trade for him, though? The thing that was telling to me is that Tennessee and Houston both had regimes that had ties to San Francisco that had worked with Trey Lance that needed quarterbacks, and they passed.
Right.
Hey, Trey Lance could go to Tennessee. They're going to scrub quarterbacks over there.
But they didn't want him. They went with Will Levis instead. And I think if Ryan Tannehill fails, they're going to go with Will Levis for a couple of years. I don't see where Trey Lance has a landing spot.
He's got nowhere to go.
That's a great question Clark brings up. If the Cardinals do finish last and they have the number 1 overall pick, do they go with Caleb Williams?
Kind of like what they did with Josh Rosen.
Send him to the Oakland A's.
What do you think?
Las Vegas A's.
Do they take Caleb Williams in the draft?
Absolutely. Kyler Murray is a contract they're regretting at this point, and they can't get rid of him because of the contract, and they can't get rid of him because of the ACL. But they can take Caleb Williams on that rookie contract and then look to try to either move Kyler Murray or whatever they need to do. But you don't help a mistake by doubling down on a mistake. And
right.
They obviously do not like Kyler Murray, where if they could undo that, they would get rid of the contract. The worst thing you can do is not take Caleb Williams because you're going to double down and try to make that contract work. So, yes, right. I would absolutely take Caleb Williams.
And I think that Arizona finishes last, and I think they get the number 1 pick overall in the draft next year.
And Kyler Murray goes back to the Oakland A's.
Yes. So, I mean, Kyler Murray ends up being a has-been and goes somewhere to be a backup somewhere with somebody. So,
he'll get another chance. Kyler Murray will get another chance to start somewhere. I think he wasn't terrible in Arizona. There's some maturity issues as far as whether he needs to play a little less Call of Duty and study his playbook more. But his arm and his physical talent is.
Do we bring it back to size being an issue, Derek, for these guys?
I think Kyler Murray's size is an issue. I really do.
I think his work ethic is an issue.
That could be that's another point. Yes, you're correct.
What was your prediction for the 49ers?
12-5.
12-5.
12-5 with the division. Yeah, I think that's
the best. It won't matter
roster.
who the quarterback is; they're going to win the division.
Right. I think it's the best roster in football. I don't know if they can win the Super Bowl because the quarterbacks are important in the postseason, and they are not settled at that quarterback spot. But I think as far as winning the division,
but if Purdy could pick up where he left off, it could be a total different story of where that's concerned.
It could. It's a small body of work, and now people got game film on him, and they're going to have an off season to study him. And he's coming off an elbow injury, so we'll see what he does. But he looked good when he took over that starting job.
He's got a good head on his shoulders.
All right.
He plays the game well between his ears.
Right. We're 5 minutes over. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up before we get out of here? Kenny, Elliot, John.
Kudos to Leo Messi for setting Miami ablaze with his heroics in soccer.
Good grief, Lionel Messi with going to Miami. Who would have thought it? Good grief.
I got news for you. He's about to kick off against FC Dallas, and it's only 106 degrees here. So
Jesus Christ, Ken, stay cool, man. Get lots of fans going on.
I've got a fan going right now, and that's about the best.
That's spreading that 106 around. Ain't it?
Get your ice maker going off time and get yourself a somewhat of a cool. Get the ices going.
I am chugging the Gatorade.
Chugging the Gatorade. Okay. Ken, stay cool. All right. That's all I can tell you. All right. And I can tell you that in Florida, we're hot too, but central air is fucking phenomenal. I'm just going to say. Okay?
Oh, I know. I've had it before. Don't have it now.
Isn't it, Elliot? Elliot can concur with that. Yes, central air is fucking great.
Hey, John, get better, man.
Yes, John.
Yes, John.
Trying. Thanks, gents. Yeah. I'm out of here. I got to.
I'm thinking of you, John. Praying for you. Get better.
Man.
Keep us posted. Let us know how you're doing.
Keep us posted. Let us know how you're doing.
Yes, sir.
All right, Derek, thank you so much.
Send recordings.
Thanks for having me.
I'll send you the recording, John. Yes.
Yeah, make sure you save it so we can make Scott eat his
words. Great predictions, Derek.
Yes.
Love the AFC East predictions.
Thank you, John.
I'm sure I'm too upset with the NFC West. So
I'm sure 2/3 of them will be wrong because that's the type of sport the NFL is.
I hate your AFC North prediction, but that's just me. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're gonna get out of here. Derek, thank you again. We love you having on.
Thanks, Scott.
If you ever need, the season's coming up, whenever you want to get on and talk football, let us know. We'll bring you on, no matter what day.
You got.
I'll wait until the Browns
invitation.
I'll wait until the Browns have one of their epic collapses that they have.
There you go.
I'll decide to come to bed.
Go fuck yourself, Derek. That's all I'm going to say.
Open invitation, Derek. Anytime, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
We're gonna get out of here for the week. I want to thank Derek for being on the show. It was a great time. And also thanks to my co-host, Mr. Elliot Biggie Lamba, Mr. Ken Council, and of course, John G. Olson. We are the Spurs Nerds, and we are out. We'll be here again next Sunday at 7:30. Elliot, play the outro.
Well, there you have it, Nerd Nation. Another Sunday episode of the Sports Nerd Show in the books. And we are still alive and televised. Now, on behalf of our host, Scott, and his co-host, John Olson, Ken Casso, lovable members in the Ram Pack, and yes, me, Big E. The entire pack would once again like to thank you all for participating with us in the best 90 minutes of Sports Smack Talk on the web today. So until next Sunday night, Beer Nation, we would like to leave you with a quick PSA. Please stay safe. Please practice social distancing, and for heaven's sake, please wear a damn mask. You all just got hit with a pack ram from the Ram Pack, and with that, fellas, we are